everything was just kind of coming together. And I just decided I'm going to move to Atlanta. I have an aunt who lives here, and I'm going to just bet on myself. And I said, I'm going to give myself a year and see if it works. If it doesn't work, then I'm going back to school.
Before we get into this episode, I know you've been struggling with the idea of starting your own business and launching a premium product that you know is going to transform lives. So I have a bomb resource for you. The man himself, Words Taylor, is going to help you launch your product or service for the clients who need your help right now. Now, you can't call yourself a business owner unless you are getting in front of new clients every single day, and Words knows exactly how to do that. All you have to do is tap in so he can teach you his 6-figure launch strategy that's produced over $5 million in client sales. So all you have to do is go to highticketlaunchsecrets.com. That's highticketlaunchsecrets.com and get into the free training. It's happening this week. So go to highticketlaunchsecrets.com and let's get into the episode. Welcome to another episode of the Work and Play podcast. I'm your host, Ariel Young, and today we have a really special guest, and I'm so excited to get into your story. Miss Peggie.
Hi.
How are you?
I am well. It's been a good day so far.
So far, so good. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
So on the Work and Play podcast, we get to talk about, if you work while you play or you play while you work, you never have to work a day in your life, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And so in that regard, we can talk about life transitions and career transitions and all of those different steps. And your career moves, like your courage to take a leap and do things that you believe in, that has been so inspiring. So we are going to get into all of that for sure. But without further ado, would you like to introduce yourself and tell everybody what you do?
Sure. I am Peggie J. Lyons. I'm an actress, a real estate agent, and I also own a candle business. I am a sister, and I say that because I love my sister and all my siblings. And I am just out here trying to create generational wealth, as well as teaching people about ownership and teaching other people about generational wealth, especially people who look like me, and also just spreading peace, joy, and love.
Absolutely.
All day, every day.
I love it. I love it. And one of the biggest milestones as of late is you leaving corporate America. So a little bit about what you did and when did you take your leap?
Oh, it's been interesting. So, actually was working for a small business for a while, and it was a great opportunity. Just really being able to be on the inside of how a small business works. It was really cool. I was working directly with the owners, so that was really cool. And then all of a sudden they downsized, and I was a part of the downsize. I had just bought my house 2 weeks prior, and I was like, what? How do I? Huh? Out of nowhere. And so that was a turning point for me. And so then I ended up working at a restaurant as a server, and it was a lot of, okay, I know this is going to be temporary because I'm too old to be a server. I just felt like I have a degree. Why am I serving? But the why is because it worked for my schedule. So if I needed to, I was off early in the day. If I needed to go take off for to film, if I needed to take off to go for an audition or a meeting, whatever it is, they were very flexible. And I was like, okay, I know this is not ideal, but it works for what I needed to work for because my priorities aren't working for someone else. It's doing what I'm passionate about. Yeah. And so I was working there for a while, and then COVID, and then I wasn't working there anymore. And that's when I transitioned into, there was a lot going on for me in 2020 in addition to COVID. But during that time I was like, if I'm ever going to bet on myself, this is the time to bet on myself. And that's where PJL Candles was born. And now I'm almost a year into PJL Candles and over a year into being a real estate agent. And so, yeah, still acting.
I love it. I love it. And so as you mentioned, PJL Candles, we definitely are setting the scene and the mood with PJL Candles. I'm starting to feel the aroma. So we're gonna have to get into those for sure, because I'm like, I just, it just kind of gets me in my zone, right? And so what else better to set the working place scene with like some umoja candles.
Unity in Swahili.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I have to practice it. I actually wanted to put that into my practice because as I get more and more and more into Black culture, it's crazy. Like, I'm 30 years old and I grew up in the South, but like I didn't have very much African American history in my life. I didn't learn about Malcolm X until like 20 something. Not learn about him, but
but learn.
Really, you know what I mean? And then when you think about it, when we're kids, only thing that's on the wall is Mary McLeod Bethune, Malcolm X, and Martin Luther King. You don't get into like the W.E.B. Du Bois. We don't get into Booker T. Washington and the W.E.B. Du Bois. Unity is really important. It's finally come up. So like that, literally, you just kind of brought that up.
And honestly, that's one of the things I try to do, like with like the names or the sense and stuff like that. Not necessarily just about like Black history, but just like I want all of my names to mean something. You know what I mean? So that's why, like with Umoja, it was released for Juneteenth, and I think luckily, this is a time where a lot of people were really learning about what Juneteenth was. I feel like I was fortunate enough to, like when I grew up in Memphis. I'm from Memphis, Tennessee, and there's a lot of history there, as you could imagine. And so, having to go to the Civil Rights Museums, the Lorraine Motel where, Martin Luther King was assassinated, and things like that. My mom was always really big on us learning about those things. So we would literally have to do reports at home, like home reports about like black figures and stuff like that. So I definitely feel very fortunate about that, because a lot of people don't know, and there's still so much that I'm still even learning about. There's so much to know, and that we're not taught in school and stuff. So if I can add a little bit, to the conversation, I would love to do that.
And I'm so glad you did. So when you say a lot went on in 2020, like really a lot went on for everybody, but I'm sure it went on for you. And as we set the stage, you were an actress at the time. You were actress. You were also building out PJL candles.
I hadn't started yet.
You hadn't started yet. It was the layoff that kind of sparked a little bit of like, okay, what am I going to do? You were at the restaurant. So what industry were you in when you were laid off when you went into the restaurant like business?
Oh, so that was sales. So so that it was sales, but also everything else, because it was a small business, and a lot of I was kind of like their lead employee for the most part, which meant I did everything but the technical stuff. So it was a biomedical technical company, and so they did like all the repairs for like medical devices and medical equipment and all that stuff. And so I was a part of like all the sales. I represented them for meetings with clients and stuff like that. So I was like, oh, this is different. I like this. Just like being a part of that process and learning how to represent a company in that type of way, kind of literally being the face a lot of times. And so it was interesting. I learned a whole lot. And obviously wasn't an industry. Like, I got my degree in psychology, so that had nothing to do with
I was gonna ask you that.
It had nothing to do with my degree. I don't even remember how I got the job.
I was gonna ask you that as well, because you said biomedical, and then you mentioned psychology, and then as an actress, we gotta definitely get into that story. But what it sounds like is you have this positive like energy about you. One, you took in the experience of working at a small business, and I'm sure that informs your entrepreneurial journey.
Yes.
But were you passionate about like the work that you were doing in any technical sense of the word?
I literally was and it was like they were paying well, and I was just like, I thought it would be good enough until I got to where I needed to be when it came to acting. So I was still taking classes. I was still, getting booked here and there and stuff like that. So that was my goal, was to stay there. It's so funny because it's like, I'm looking at it now and I was very content. And you know how that goes.
Yes,
so,
ma'am.
So I was very content. And when it was time to go, God made it to where it was time to go.
Yeah, I always say that, like, it's kind of like relationships. If we don't make a decision to get up out of there, He will make a decision for us. You know what I mean? And if you hadn't done that, you would have never been pushed out. So There's so much to dig into because when it comes to psychology, there's a reason, there's a decision behind that. Then the biomedical company, there's a decision behind that. Then your acting career, there's a decision behind that. So let's go all the way back, right? We got a little bit about your upbringing. You're in Memphis, Tennessee. Mama's giving us like African American history.
Yes.
What did you think you were going to be when you grew up?
Something in corporate.
Oh, really?
Yes. I'm a very logical thinker. And so for me, I need something guaranteed. I don't... Acting? Why would I do that? And it wasn't until the summer after I graduated high school that I got cast as the lead of a play. It was the first time I was the lead in a play. And it was... somebody just had called me like, hey, somebody's like producing a play. And you should go audition. And I was like, okay. And it was a cold read too, which means I didn't get sides beforehand or the script beforehand. And so I got there and I just was like, I remember being on stage and I was like, oh, I like this. And I'm like twirling. It was like a whole thing. And they were like, yes. And I was like, all right, cool. So wait
a minute. You leaving out so many. Wait a minute. What was the role? You said this was high school?
Yeah. So, okay. So the role was for, her name was Maddie Lou. And it was just set back in like the Harlem Renaissance Cotton Club time. And she wanted to be, child, that was a long time ago. She wanted to be a singer. She wanted to be an entertainer. And I'm pretty sure she was a singer or something. But she wanted to be a singer. And so it was like her, like, breaking free of her family and just being held down and just wanting to go for it. Yeah. And so, so that was the role.
That's why you're twirling everywhere. Because it's Cotton Club.
Yeah. I just remember being like, it was like a scene where I was like excited. And I was just like, oh, no. It was me going to New York City because she was from the South. And the scene was like her going to New York for the first time. And so I just, for whatever reason, I remember like just twirling like, New York City. And then I was like, I'm already country, but I made my accent a little more country than normal, and they were sold.
They ate it up.
So I was like, all right, cool. Oh, like I didn't think nothing of it. Okay, cool, got booked, whatever. And so, mind you, I'm already set to go to college. I already know what my major is going to be. I already know what I'm going to be, which I want to be a therapist. Okay. My goal was to be a marriage and family therapist because I'm really big on like relationships and the sanctity of family and marriage and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
So, yes. So, I get the role, blah, blah, blah. We're rehearsing and, like, all the time. We were rehearsing for months. And they will always tell me, Peggy, like, you really need to go to school. And when you go to school, you should go to school for acting. And I was like, that's dumb. And so, I don't want to do that.
Your logical mind is like, look, we're not doing nothing.
That doesn't make sense. Where's the guaranteed money? Where's the salary?
How did you know about how did you know about like salary as a young person?
That's a really good question. I just know I needed security. And maybe it's because it's not that I didn't grow up without security. My mom did have a secure job. But I didn't grow up with like privilege, if that makes sense. And so my goal was to not only set myself up, but to be able to start something new for my lineage. I've always wanted to do that.
That's deep.
Yeah, that's always been a part of me. Like I always knew that it would be me. I always knew that it would be me to change my lineage. Right. Particularly when it came to like wealth. Okay. So, that was just like, I got to make money because I need to get this person out of where they at. I need to get, like,
you've always had that responsibility.
I took on that responsibility.
Okay. So you're like, nope, I'm going to school for psychology. I know what I'm going to do. They're like, acting. You're like, no. Then what?
So then, we did the play for 4 nights. We showed the play for 4 nights. Every single night, and the first night I remember like super vividly. Every single night, at the end of it, I'm like going to get some snacks or something, and people started like lining up, and I'm like, what y'all lining up for? I'm hungry. And they literally would line up to talk to me and to get my autograph, and I was like, I thought they were being dramatic. Like I was like, what? This is so dramatic. Like what? This, and I'm thinking just because it's Memphis, maybe they ain't never seen a play before, and then. The second night and the third night, these are different crowds. I'm like, okay, well, hold on, Lord. Maybe I need to pay attention to this. And so each night that happened, and that's what made me be like, okay. So when I went to school, I still got my degree in psychology, but I did take all the classes they had relating to acting. And so that really, really helped me kind of learn the technical side of acting. And then I decided I still wasn't super sold until my last year in school. And this is when we're talking about career, and we're talking about how to, turn your degree into a career and like what the next steps are. And I was not trying to go back to school because obviously with a psychology degree, I would need to either get my master's or my doctorate. And I would have gotten my doctorate. And so I was like, I don't want to do that. And I also was like, do I really want to listen to I don't want to say listen to people's problems, but do I really want to bear that responsibility for the next 20, 30 years? And I was like, So then I remember watching that Steve Harvey video where he's talking about jumping or taking the leap. It's like, it was like a really, really popular video that he did. And it was just like, basically saying bet on yourself and just take the leap. Like,
when he's talking about that whole comedy where he's like, he didn't have nothing but $1. Yeah. Yes, I know that story.
And I was like, it like hit me. And so everything was just kind of coming together. And I just decided, I'm going to move to Atlanta. I have an aunt who lives here. And I was like, I'm just going to move there. I talked to her about it. And she was like, that's fine. And I'm going to just bet on myself. And I said, I'm going to give myself a year and see if it works. If it doesn't work, then I'm going back to school. And so I gave myself a year. And during that year, like, things were working. I was getting booked on like independent stuff. And I'm getting my footing and stuff like that. So I was like, I'll stay. And so I've been here for almost 5 years now. Beautiful.
So you took the first leap 5 years ago. But what was the first thing so you called your aunt, you said, hey, I'm coming, right? Did you have any foresight into like what you were going to do when you got to Atlanta?
Really? It was crazy because I'm a planner. And to be very, very honest with you, because I'm a planner, I'm a planner, but I'm also like not emotionally connected all the time. And so I never thought about the emotional,
fear.
The fear. I didn't think about like how I would feel it's a whole new city. Atlanta's very different. I went to school in Knoxville. Atlanta's very different than Knoxville. Very different than Memphis. Like, this is the biggest city I've ever lived in. I don't know anybody for real. My aunt, my aunt's a little bit older, so like she's in the house. Like we're not going nowhere. So me like getting on 75 and like this 8-9 lanes was so overwhelming. When I tell you I had the worst anxiety for like 6 months, like it was really, really bad. And I was like, what the heck is this? And I think it was just because I hadn't processed the move. I was just like, okay, 2 + 2 = 4. I'm going to move to Atlanta. I'm going to do, like, it was like, like that. I didn't think about the emotional part of it. And so that was definitely a big part, I guess, or like a big rough spot of like me moving here because I hadn't thought about all that stuff. It was just, okay, I talked to my auntie. She said I could stay with her for a while. For whatever reason, she thought I was going to stay with her for like 5 years or so. And I was like, ma'am.
I was here for this stint right here. I just needed to launch pad real quick.
Ma'am.
And I love you, but
But she's so sweet. I really appreciated that. But yeah, she let me, I stayed with her for, I don't know, maybe 7 or 8 months until I got an apartment and stuff. But it was definitely an interesting transition. Just me like learning it really taught me the importance of being in tune with my emotions. And it's funny because I wanted to be in psychology, and that's psychology that was really important about.
Right. So it's just funny that you detached from like that experience. And like to your credit, you were just out of undergrad. There's so much more to experience and learn. And actually what I love about like going to college and then going out and get life experience, you can then put life experience behind that like text. Yeah. Because if you just keep getting text after text after text, then you're not necessarily getting that context. Ooh, context and not text. Just write that down.
That's a word.
So 5 years later, you're still here, but you took the first leap. You kind of like underestimated the emotional journey of it. And so, 6 months, you're going through that experience, right? That emotional experience. But then what was the next uptick? Did you find a gig or something? And then
So I initially decided I was going to take a few months off of working. I saved up. So I was like, I'm going to take some months off of working because I was tired. Like I had taken, when I was in school, I was working 2 jobs for the majority of it. Not because I had to, because I didn't take out any loans or, I wasn't in any debt or anything like that. It was just Capricorn in me. Like I just gotta work. And I was like, I'm tired. So I took a few months off and then I started doing like background work so I could just learn film acting because I come from the theater. So I like, learning film acting and stuff like that. And then got into class. Actually, Dwayne Boyd was my first class that I took. And it was crazy because the first day I went, they had like this this was like more confirmation. They had this like competition. I want to say it was a commercial type competition. I can't remember what it was. But long story short, there was like we all, had the script or whatever. And there was like who's the best. And me, my first day in that class, I actually won. And I was like, what is this? And it was absolutely confirmation. Absolute confirmation. So, so it was just like a little slow tick into me believing in myself, right? Which is, that's so important. And it's a journey, especially for me, it's a journey. But like just me believing in myself, like little things like that were happening with, me going to classes and stuff like that. And then I'm getting into the independent circuit. So I'm getting booked on like independent, projects. And then I want to say it was 2 years in was when I got my agent.
Okay.
That sounds like something that might be correct.
Fact check myself.
I think it was like 2.5 years in is when, I finally got my agent. And because I just wanted to get, independent stuff under my belt, I just felt like I needed to be prepared. So that way, when I did finally get an agent, I had something to show them. Yeah. So I got an agent and I've been with them for, ever since then.
That's nice. I love your journey. And you do everything so, you know how people say fearless? I know that there's no such thing as fearless, but you move in a way, how you just explained, I think you just unlocked it though. Detaching from our emotions, that's one way to go about things so that you don't let fear paralyze you. Yes. That makes a lot of sense. But then you also mentioned like this journey of believing in yourself. So can you, acting sound like an innate ability. And then you got the technical training while you're like doing your electives in school. So like, what was your journey? Like when did you start believing like I was good at it? Cause it sounds like years later, you still winning contests and you're like, wait, I'm good?
Yeah. You know something? I still struggle with that because I'm the type of person, like, I'm always thinking about what I can do better. What's the next step? Like, I'm not, like, once I achieve something, it's like, okay, cool, what's next? So I don't really stay in the moment enough. And I think that has a lot to do with me, like, a lot of self-doubt that I have. So that's something I'm still working on to this day. But what I am, the way that I'm working on it is by taking those moments. When I do get booked or when I do have whatever type of success, it's like, stay in it, Peggy. Look at, like, this is true. They're not doing this for no reason. No, they're not being dramatic. Like, this is legit. No one, like, no one. You ever use
the affirmation, I am awesome?
Yeah.
Do you really believe it though?
Yeah, I do. And it's like, now I do, right? It's taken some time. It's taken a lot of, like, rocky points to where God is just like, girl, okay, what else do you want me to do to show you that, like, you're blessed, you're called, you're chosen, like, all these things, like, you're talented, you're skilled. What else is it? Yeah. I think it's just because my work ethic, like, I work so much and I work so hard that I always feel like there's more to do. I'm always thinking about what my goal is for, not what I just accomplished, but like what my next goal is. Right. And I also have to remember, like, I just accomplished that and it's a big deal. Absolutely. Not everybody does that. Everybody buys their house I bought my house at 25. And everybody buys their house at 25 or, like things like that. Absolutely. So. But
I think I'm also kind of tying it back to your younger years when you took the responsibility of like your family lineage, right? Yeah. So in terms of self-actualization, and honestly, we talk about that on the show too, it's like, when you think self-actualization, you're like, I'm just a piece seed of who I really, really am.
Yeah.
And y'all don't even know what really is behind that door. If you only knew. Mm-hmm. But I hear you also honoring where you are.
Yeah.
So that's good.
Mm-hmm.
So you are killing it in acting. It doesn't sound like there was anything that told you, okay, maybe I should turn around. So what made you get a 9 to 5?
Because acting is not cheap. a lot of the independent projects, they don't pay, and if they do, it's like nominal, which is still good, experience and things like that. But experience doesn't pay the bills. So and so a lot of us, like even like a lot of people that are like booking still have jobs, because we still got to pay bills. You know what I mean? So that was really it. It was because classes, headshots, like all this stuff. Like
cost money.
Having to buy wardrobe, like all this stuff costs. So it's the cost associated with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we already said we don't even remember how we took that biomedical job, but you're working it and you're living your passion. How does it feel to like live in two different separate worlds for so long?
It was sometimes frustrating because they wanted me to put the job first. And I knew that once I moved here, whatever job I got, I would need them to understand that acting is going to be first for me. So I did tell them that in the interview, but of course, things switch up. So, and I think maybe as I got more like integral to their operation, it was like, nah, don't go to the audition. So it was definitely a struggle, but I always knew what the overall goal was, or what the end goal was. And so it was just like, well, I'm just gonna go on my lunch break, or something like that. Like I was gonna make it work because there's no way I can allow this job, which isn't even in my field, so I can go get another one.
Yeah. Right.
If it doesn't work out, I can get another one. I have a whole degree. I can work in my field if I need to. I just was determined that I wasn't going to let anything deter me from the literal reason I moved here. Also, at the time, I didn't like Atlanta. So there was no way that I was going to like settle for this job when I'm here for acting. Because if it wasn't for acting, I would not be here, if that makes sense. So I was just very determined to make it work.
Right. So, and I hear that drive, right? Clearly, you're still doing it year after year. But then there was a time when you said you got a little complacent. And if it hadn't been for the complacency, like, you might have still been there. Have you read The Alchemist by...
No, not yet. It's on my list, though.
It's a good one. And I think it resonates with people who are truly passionate about something. Like, acting sounds like... It's just like we all have callings, but everybody's calling isn't as magical or even theatrical as truly acting is. But I'm wondering, like, if it hadn't been for you leaving or getting laid off, right? Then how long would you have like stayed in a space where you were like complacent and kind of going? Tell me.
Too long, because. Well, you know what? Actually, as I think about it, I probably would have had to make a choice at some point. Yeah. Because at this point, I got my agent by now, so I'm getting more auditions. Okay. And so I remember, and I also had gotten booked not too long before I had gotten laid off. I had gotten booked, and they ended up needing me for an additional day, and it was I had to go back to Tennessee. And so they ended up needing me for an additional day. And I remember emailing them. They were like upset about it. And I was like, but and the things I could have just worked from home and it could have worked out, but they were, you know what I mean? And so I think that was kind of my first clue that I probably should have been looking for something else. But of course, I was like, it's going to work out. Which it did, but not in the way that I was thinking. So yeah, I think I would have been met with a choice. And of course I would have chosen acting, but it would have been a hard choice because I was getting paid pretty decently, and I had just bought a house. So yeah, I would have been there for a minute because I would have been trying to get my house together So I would have just been pushing off like, oh, I need to do this, I need to do that. Like,
I got you.
Yeah, no, I would have stayed there too.
A little longer than you needed to. Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's why I brought up The Alchemist, because it talks about, and I don't want to give too much away because I know you're going to read it. You should. But it just talks about like when we don't take heed of our calling, it turns from like that little loud whisper to like faint whisper, and then it goes away. Ooh. And so like hearing you being kind of pushed out, right? I'm just wondering, like, I'm glad it happened that way, because like you said, you might have been, at a place where you had to make a choice, but so many people forget about their passions and go, well, you know what, this is a really cool thing I've done in my life. And yes, I'm getting booked, but it's not a lot of money. And I think this is where I should be. And then you just stay complacent. So I'm glad that happened to you.
Yeah.
The top 3 responses that I get when I ask, why do you want to leave corporate America, are that you want financial freedom, you want to own your own time, and you want to build a legacy for this generation and generations to come. Now, this is not a solo job. In order to transition from your 9-to-5 into entrepreneurship, it's going to take community and it's going to take resources. And I've created the community of pioneers who are going to wrap around you and help you make that transition successfully. So if you're interested in leaving your job, go ahead and click that information below. Let's get into the community and let's transition from your 9-to-5 into entrepreneurship successfully. Now let's get back to the episode.
And you know what? I'm hard-headed too. Sometimes I got to learn the hard way, because I would have tried to keep making it work, right? Like, I would have been like, no, I can make this work, instead of surrendering to like what it's supposed to be, what God is trying to show me.
Yes.
Because I'm so like, I'm a Capricorn, so it's like they're controlling. Like, I want to control the situation and planning. I can make this work.
Yes.
No, it's not yours to make work.
Tell it.
So
okay, so you leave, and how long in between your last role and then your next 9-to-5 was it?
Not too long, because it's easy to serve a job. Probably just a couple weeks. It wasn't.
That's
that
true.
long.
You went into serving, and then after serving, you went into back into corporate.
That was it.
Oh, that was it.
That was up until COVID.
Oh, really? Oh my goodness. So we were working as a server during COVID, which I'm sure had its own, like the restaurants were closing down at the time. You weren't getting, as picked up, but what was going on with your acting career at the time?
Everything stopped.
Everything stopped.
Yeah. So like, it was crazy. Oh God. It was so crazy. So leading up into 2020, it was a lot going on. Like, my sister was having a baby, and she's in Tennessee. She's in Memphis. So, like, having to deal with that and know that, like, not my first niece, I have brothers, but, like, my first niece by her, like, me and her are really, really close. So, like, her child, like, I won't be there for, you know? So that was a lot, and just generally going through a lot. And then I was getting, like, great auditions and great, like, I was auditioning for great projects and getting no after no after no. And like, it had gotten to the point where I was getting like a lot of first refusals, which means that I was like, it was between like a handful of us. So they were telling me like, checking my availability, things like that. And I'm like, oh, okay. And like, after you get a few of these, you think one of these gonna happen.
Turn out, yeah.
Whew. It was so many no's to where it was draining me. And I was starting to just like, maybe I just need to take a break. Me and one of my friends were actually talking about it. Like, I was like, maybe we both were saying like, maybe we just need to take a break and a breather, because it wasn't fun anymore. Like, it takes a toll on you. Like, people think of acting as like this glamorous thing. And yes, there are some amazing points to it, especially when you win. Right. But what you don't see, the wins feel so good because of like that other stuff we go through, the rejection. We actors go through an abnormal amount of rejection. And it was a lot. It was just too much. And so honestly, I feel like I had already kind of decided I was going to take a break. But then COVID happened, so I didn't have a choice.
Okay. So this was 2019 going into 20, where you were serving and you were acting. You had gone no after no after no, and then COVID hit. So it kind of gave you a bit of a lag time to just kind of sit down with yourself.
Yeah, I needed it.
I got you.
I did, because I was just like, it had gotten to a point where I was just like doing auditions, like, I ain't gonna get it no way. You know, like that kind of thing. Cause it was like just so many no's and like the ones you would get excited about. You know, I remember one time I had went for this callback and like the girl, one of the casting associates like knew my name. And I was like, you know my name? You know, I was like, oh yeah, I got this. And I walked away from the audition feeling confident. They didn't call me back. So it was, you know, like things like that. I was like, this is a lot.
So when it comes to your self-esteem, and you can even like correlate this to like interviews, because when you feel like you leave everything on the table, one would say like that encourages you to just walk away from it knowing that you gave it all you got. But I guess after so many of those, it's taking a toll at this point. And you're no longer like believing, at least at that surface level, that you're even as good.
Yeah. It's like, what am I doing wrong? Like what, like I'm getting so close, but what am I missing that's not putting me over? And then, you know, obviously there's so many things it could be. It could be because I'm black. It could be, and not in a bad way, but they just may decide to go with a white girl or a Latina girl, or anything like that. Or it could be because I'm short. It could be my hair is not long enough. Could be not short enough. Like, it could be things I have no control over.
Where do you go for that kind of feedback? Does your manager help you with that? You just kind of...
You just don't know.
Really?
Because they don't like... No, you just don't know what it is.
And that's completely different from like corporate space, because at least you can ask somebody like something. There's nobody to be asked.
No, I mean, they can kind of give you, like if you have a manager and agent, sometimes they can give you like, oh, well, maybe like in your auditions, something, you know, but honestly, they can't give you a definitive answer because it could have been literally anything. They could have wanted somebody with red hair. Okay. You know what I mean? Like it could be literally anything. So that's the thing. It's like you don't know what you're doing wrong. There's no real way to find out why the no is the no.
You just got to keep on going.
Yeah.
Tell me, what's your favorite type of role?
Honestly, my favorite type of role, because I'm cheesy, is like a romance. Like my goal, my like dream role is like The Notebook. Like where you're just like super just in love. I don't know why, but I'm just like, that's my dream role.
Ooh. I can see you since you said you have that, you put on a country accent for that role back in the time. I'm thinking of Princess Tiana. I'm literally thinking about Princess Tiana and like the whole frog story, and she's just like, it's a love story and the whole thing. I can see you.
I love something like that. Yes. Love it.
Would you do, like, are you musically inclined too? Would you do a musical?
I wish. I wish. But no, I'm a shower singer, not a public.
Your soap and your scrub, that's your audience. Yes.
Shower head.
You sing all day.
Absolutely. After that, that's it.
I love it. So, when you think about like your journey, you have really counted on yourself. You've just kind of listened to yourself. Tell me, how did you recuperate everything? Like get yourself together, and what did you do step by step in 2020 to just kind of keep your sanity?
Well, so like I said, 2020 was really rough. I ended up like the same day that everything got shut down, meaning the same day I lost my job, I also ended a 6-year relationship. So there was like a lot of loss just in that one day. And everything changed. Like everything changed. And then a few months later, my grandmother passed away. That's what I'm named after. So like it was a struggle to say the least. I've never before been that depressed. Never. Like I didn't even know, I'd never actually experienced depression until that. And being by myself and being locked down. Right. So it ain't like I could go hang out with friends and get a distraction, or go to work and get a distraction. I'm literally sitting in my feelings all day, every day for months on end. And it was crazy. So I got a therapist. And so I was going to therapy weekly, and just really, really implementing a lot of, those tools I was learning, and just taking time to take care of me. I ain't had nowhere to go. So taking time to take care of me, and I had to be so vulnerable because I couldn't hold all that stuff in. So I was like talking to friends and just letting it all out. Things that I would, normally I'm the type of person, I'm strong, I'm this, I don't, you know what I mean? So it's like, I keep everything to myself. I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
And honestly, like, that experience changed the way that I operate because it used to be like, I'm an introvert. So it's like, I don't like to have a lot of friends, or I don't like, you know what I mean? I definitely don't like to open up to people, but I had to. And so, and I also had to like ask for help, meaning like, I'm struggling right now. Like, I am sad. Please talk to me. Things like that.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so I had to allow myself to go through it. Thank God I had a therapist. And also thank God I had, my siblings and my friends to really like be like a support system.
Yeah.
And I just had to talk through it. And I have a cousin who moved here about a year ago, maybe 2 years ago. I don't know. But he moved here not too long ago. And so he was really just like helping me out. He would come over and stuff like that. And so just really having a support system and leaning on them, allowing myself to lean on them, having a therapist and like putting those tools to use and just allowing myself to be sad.
Yeah.
Because it's so like, I think we're wired to sweep it under the rug because I got stuff to do. You know what I mean? Like, I can't just sit here and be sad because I got to go to work. I got to take care of kids. I ain't got no kids, but I'm saying other people. I got to take care of the kids. I have to take care, whatever, like, especially Black women.
Yes.
Like, people, like, we got other stuff to do. We don't have time to be sad.
Emotional, yes. Who give me cry? I got bills tomorrow. If I cry right now, then I'm probably going to be late to wherever I got to go.
I have to go to work.
Yes.
So I had to allow myself to go through all the emotions.
Yeah.
And it was the hardest thing I've ever done.
Yeah.
But I will say I learned a lot about myself. I learned so much about myself throughout that whole process. And it definitely brought me, like, when it comes to time, like, my healing time was, I guess, faster because I was going through everything all day, every day. But but I still wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy.
Right.
I wouldn't wish that on my worst
enemy.
enemy.
And not to mention, you went through a lot of the hard personal things, like right when Corona got bad. And then we talk about the Black community. There was a time when the entire collective, I could feel everyone's sorrow. Like June, July, I would just wake up like, I don't know why I'm sad.
Yes.
So to add that with your own personal journey, I know it might have accelerated the process, but I feel like, did you ever get to a place where you're like, okay, I'm out of it, and it was like, oh, now we got another thing, or was it just kind of all combined?
No, it was like, literally, I was feeling a lot better, and then my grandmother passed away.
Oh, okay.
And that, like, I was like, you have got to be kidding me. You have got to, like, you come wait to next year? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, give me some, like,
some time. Yeah.
I honestly, at that point, I was like, okay, this is it. Like, I just did not think I was going to make it. I was like, this is why? Why? Now? You know what I mean? Like, I was just starting to feel better from, like, a lot of things, especially the breakup. Like, I was just starting to feel better, just starting to feel like I can see the light at the end of the tunnel and all that stuff. And then that happened. And I was like, oh God, I don't know what this is. I don't know. So that was really, really hard. Really, really, and that's still a hard thing, obviously.
Yeah.
And that's not something I'll ever, get over.
It's not, yeah.
So it was a struggle because I was like, I was just starting to get over something. And then I get hit with something that I can't get over. So,
it's crazy how those emotions just kind of, and like you said, you were forced to deal with it all in your four walls. I say four walls because sometimes, like, my little condo just feels like I'm here and this is all I have. So, what was the, I guess, not last, because emotions ebbs and flows, but what was the last, like, upturn where you're like, okay, it's going to be okay? Was that when you got PJL candle? Oh.
So Yes. And so it was when I started PJL Candles. See, that was this is what's so crazy about that year. I forget how crazy that was. I started PJL Candles that same month my grandmother passed away. So I never even got to tell her about it. Like, it was like I didn't even know, like, it wasn't like I knew that she was going to pass away at first. So like August 7th is when I started PJL Candles, and I was super excited. I told her like a little bit about it, but like I was excited to, like, I was going to go home and like show her and like all that stuff. And I think a week after I launched the weekend I launched PJL, she went into the hospital. And then I think a couple weeks later, she passed away. So I felt like I couldn't even enjoy like the launch, even though the launch went really well. I felt like I couldn't even enjoy it because I'm like behind the scenes going through getting these updates that weren't getting any better. And so anyway, so that's why it's hard. Like, it was like happy, sad.
Yeah.
Then I want to say the next month, I ended up reconnecting with one of my friends, Enoch, and that, like, reconnecting with him was just, it really changed everything, because like we're like the best of friends, and we met like I want to say the first year I moved here is when we met.
Okay.
And so we initially was like, are we best friends? Like, that kind of thing. And so like being able to reconnect with him, he had opened his studio, and so that gave me something else to do that I loved. Like, this is so crazy. So he's talking about believing in yourself.
Yeah.
So he was somebody who really was like a catalyst for me to like Peggy, you have talents. You know what I mean?
Yes, tap in.
So he was big on like showing people, like he would tell people about my candles. Anytime somebody walked in the studio, even if I wasn't there, telling people about my candles. There were times when he would like call me and be like, hey, someone's here, they want to talk to you, and they're like telling me how much they love the candles. One time somebody sent me a video and like all this stuff, because he was always like really like hyping me up. And then I'm like, okay, this is cool, you know, because he doesn't owe me anything, so like this is really cool. And then there was one day that I was supposed to go to the studio to help him with a podcast that they do, and then he was like, forget the podcast, we're shooting a film today. And I was like, okay. And he was like, you're shooting it. And I was like, no, I'm not. I've never held a camera before in my life. And he looked at me, he was like, Peggy, you got this. Like, you can shoot this. I believe in you. If you're going to make mistakes, I'd rather you make them with me and not like on a like bigger set.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And that moment has stuck in my mind so much, because it's like he literally believed in me to shoot his project. And it actually came out really good.
It did?
It actually came out
You got a whole
really good.
nother skill set.
It was, yes.
Okay.
Yes. And so I say that to say, like, just having like this support system that was in Atlanta, because my family, no one's here. I have a couple friends here, but like for the most part, most of my friends they don't live here, and my family doesn't live here. So like having like that support system, and like, you know, meeting his friends, and like it's like everybody that I was meeting through him were just like we just connected, and I was like, it was definitely a God thing, you know, it was definitely alignment, and it really like having this new like family really helped me get through a lot of stuff, you know what I mean? And like I had some, you know, more people that I could talk to, and one of Enoch's friends, his name is Blair, he ended up going through something similar with his grandmother, and we were able to connect in that way because we both, you know, had gone, you know, kind of gone through something similar, kind of back to back. Yeah. And so just kind of I was like, this is crazy. Obviously, I would never wish that on anybody, but like the fact that we were both able to experience that together and kind of lean on each other, was amazing. So just kind of, I guess, just overall, this new family that was created, and then being able to watch someone else like build their empire as I was building mine, it was like something you don't know anybody else who's doing it. Right. You know, like you may not know any other like entrepreneurs who are in a similar thought process as you, because there are a lot of entrepreneurs out there, but a lot of them may not be doing it similar to how you,
or at the same level.
So like to see somebody who kind of has a similar work ethic as me and all this stuff, I was like, I can do this, you know? So talking about like going back up, it was that. It was that experience.
You started believing back into yourself. One, you got into a whole. The thing about it that I love about your story is, it wasn't even like he pushed you to say, "Hey, you're gonna act in this thing," and he wanted you like to break out. He wanted you to build a whole new skill set, and you literally said, "I think if it hadn't been for that." I'm just thinking about the correlation between something new, never knowing that you even had the skill set to do it, doing it, seeing that you did it well, believing in yourself in that space gives you such a belief like, what else can I do?
Yes, that's exactly what it was. It was like, I've always known that, here's the thing, I've always kind of known, especially in school, that if I put my mind to something, I can do it, right? But that's when it comes to like logical stuff. Acting, for example, isn't really logical. If I give you a great audition, I can give you an amazing audition, but that doesn't mean I'm going to get it. I could give you an amazing audition better than the person you booked, but because they got a name or because their hair was red, literally anything, I don't get it, right? So it's not, so that kind of made me forget that that whole like, if I put my mind to something, I can do it and I can do it well. So like having this reminder from Enoch and just him being like, I don't know how he saw that in me, but like, somehow he did.
Yeah.
And he's put me it's been a lot of situations like that at this point where he's like, okay, Peggy, you go do that. And I'd be like, what?
And then it comes out good.
And it comes out good.
Yeah.
It's the strangest thing. But it's definitely been a reminder that like, I can do things and I'm good at the things that I choose to do. And like, just believe in yourself. If God puts me in the position, there's no way I'm gonna fail. There's no way. There's literally no way.
Like, get out of your way.
Get out of your way.
It's crazy.
That's the thing. And that's one of the biggest things I've, over this past year of like, healing and, reconnecting with Enoch and like all that stuff. Get out of your way.
Yeah.
And especially with PJL candles, like, and I was telling you before, I don't like to be salesy, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't like to be pushy. I feel like if you're supposed to have PJL candles, room spray or whatever, like, it'll come to you. But that's not the case.
Right.
I gotta tell you about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I can't be timid or fearful or whatever, because I have to understand that the reviews that I've been getting, the way that people tell me, like, these stories they tell me about the candles, it's like, wow, you know what I mean?
Tell me a story. Tell me, what are people feeling?
So one girl, she tells me that she always like meditates. I have a candle called 444. And so she always meditates to that candle. Like, she has to have that candle all, like, and that's the other thing. A lot of my customers are repeat customers. And I'm like, they're not buying for no reason.
Right. This is not one of those support black businesses just because you're black. It's like, no, I need this candle. It is serving me.
Yes. And then this one girl, like, she was like super excited. Like, she was like hoarding candles. She kept buying them from me and like hoarding them because she was about to get a new apartment. And she was so excited that like when she got her apartment, and she like sent me a picture of it like burning, and she was like, oh, I'm so excited. It was like, I was like a Christian, her
house.
And it was like, that's the whole point. It's like me helping people create an experience that is like, peaceful and zen, and like making you feel in whatever space that you're in that, you can like a deep breath, know? Because that's what the candles do for me. Like, even if good day or a bad day, it's like, let me light a candle and just like even out, and just like chill.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because before we lit your candles, we had vanilla, no brand, and brand doesn't matter. And the thing about it is so strong when it comes to candles and scents and things like that. Sometimes, like, even air fresheners, I just feel like, it's just tainting my body.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's so subtle. It's not really just about the scent for me. Like this right here, because when I finally took a breath, I'm like,
yeah.
I kind of leaned into it. Whereas when it's that vanilla candle, I'm just like, let me take a half a breath, because I don't want all of that going into my body. It's like drinking too sweet sugar Kool-Aid. You don't want all of that into your body.
You gotta have some balance.
Yeah, so that's what I feel like is going on right now. I'm like, I love that.
Yeah, I want it to be almost like it integrates into your space. Not like super overpowering.
Yeah.
Not like, just like enough to where you smell it, but it's like, it's like spread out, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's not too poignant, but it's also not too light. Like you can still smell it. But that's the goal. And like even like this, when I started the sprays, this one guy, he'd been saving up for a car for a long time. Like that had been like it was a huge thing for him to be able to get a car, and he finally got a car, and he was like so excited to like spray his car down, like, and it was crazy because usually you want the new car smell. He was like, no, I need the PJL so I can spray my, and I was like, wow, like you want my products to be a part of like these milestones or these important moments for you,
right? And
I was like, okay,
yeah,
it's like things like that. I'm like, okay,
yeah,
got it.
Tap, tap, tap. So tell me this, because we have to know a little bit more about the candles. How do you get the candles to actually have the aroma? Like, where did you get the idea? And then when did you start creating candles? Like, give us like a little bit of the candle creation journey.
Yes. So, back in 2020, that's when I had this thought of like, I can never allow one entity to control so much of my life. You know what I mean? Because once I lost my job, I was like, well, now what am I going to do? I had just got my real estate license, but I had just gotten it, and everything shut down. So I was like, well, I guess I'll study. So I did, for real estate, I did use that time to, learn as much as I could, but there's nothing else I could do. So with candles, that was one of those things that like had, for a couple of years, had been like people telling me like, oh, you should do candles because I love candles so much. And I was like, I ain't doing that. Because I just never saw myself as like the owner of a product-based business. Like, what? Who's going to buy from me? I would always say that. Like, who would buy from me? Little old me, And then, so COVID hits, and then I'm just like, what can I do? And candles kept coming up, and I was like, nope.
Not doing it.
Nope. And then I was like, all right. I just like, let me just try it, because originally I was going to do candles as like a part of my closing gift to my clients, my real estate clients. And so it was already kind of something I was thinking about. And I was like, let me just try and see. Let me just try and see. If it fails, it fails, whatever. And so as I'm starting to think of the name, and PJL comes up, like that's my PJL on my initials. But I was like, but what do I want to represent? Peace, joy, and love. And that's true. Like, I really want to represent peace, joy, and love. And that's the message I want to spread to people. Like, what do candles and what does, like, general aromatherapy, what does that mean to me? And it's peace, joy, and love. And what do we need, especially 2020, what do we need more of?
We needed all of that.
Especially like June and...
Yes.
So, I started conceptualizing and just testing and, finding suppliers, and I went through so many like label designs and so many just learning as much as I could and testing like different suppliers for fragrance oils and wax and like all that stuff. It is a science.
Yeah.
Right? I didn't even like science class back in the day. So, but I'm like creating this thing. I'm like falling in love with it. I'm like, this is super cool. And like, I'm able to make my own candles. So I just said, okay, I'm going to do this. And I'm like, God, you are leading me here. This is what I'm going to do. I decided to launch in August because August seems to be like a month of like transition for me. I moved to Atlanta in August. And so I was like, let's keep the August tradition going. And then August 7th is because, 7, number of completion, things like that. So I launched August 7th, and I had started like, a whole like Instagram and like starting like all the little, like starting some buzz and stuff like that. And what's crazy is that at the time, at the serving job, like there was another girl who had started a candle business over the pandemic. And I was like, so I'm not going to tell them about it, because I'm like, well, why would I tell them about it? Because they're going to buy from her. And she started hers before I did. So I was like, no, they're not going to buy from me, blah, blah, blah.
Tisk.
Listen, when I
how dare you?
When I tell you, God has a way of just being like, girl.
I'm over here like,
I'm sick of you. I'm sick of you. God, I know God be like, I'm sick of you. When I tell you, and this is not like, it did show me that you can have the exact same thing as somebody else, me and you can go out and sell bottles of water, and we probably will get 2 different audiences, completely different, and we can both be successful, right? But we'll have different branding. We're 2 different people, and in business, like especially something like this, when you're branding, a lot of times like people are buying from you because of what you represent or what your brand represents, and so God was like, you ain't got nothing to worry about. She has her own success, and you're gonna have yours, you know, and like. That was crazy. So anyway, so just like that was another example of like, Peggy, believe in yourself.
Right.
Peggy, believe in yourself.
So what did you do? Did you just you just decided I'm not going to sell, and that was just how that went?
I initially decided that, and I ended up telling one of my friends what I was doing. And she was like, girl.
Thank you, friend.
She literally was like, girl, what? So I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll tell everyone. Of course, I put on Instagram so they knew anyway. And that group of people have been some of my most frequent purchasers. So even to this day.
Thank you, friend. Thank you, God. Thank you, friend.
Absolutely. And so that's why, like, when I think of like over like this past year of all these little instances of like, girl, believe in yourself.
Yeah.
Girl, believe in yourself. You know, like honestly. And so I'm moving now and walking into owning who I am. Yeah. And owning what I bring to the table and owning what I offer, right? And knowing that I do have a good product. I've gone to pop-up shops, and like most of the time when people stop at my table, even if it's a slow pop-up shop, they will stop at my table and they are going to buy, you know? And like I've had people like that I've met at pop-up shops, and they'll send me a message on Instagram and be like, oh my gosh, like, you know, like just singing my praises. And I'd be like, and these people definitely don't owe me nothing. You know, I don't know them from a can of paint. They don't know me. So for them to be like, oh my gosh, or sending me video reviews and things like that, I'm like, wow. Yes. Wow. And so it's just a reminder to keep going. Yeah. And to keep expanding and to keep growing. And that, again, I put my heart and soul in this, and people are feeling that. Yeah. And so I'm just so proud of it. Like, I'm so proud of PJL. And like I said, next month will be, the anniversary. Yeah. So it's crazy.
Yeah. And just to clarify, they're soy candles, right? Okay, got you. And I think soy is better for the body in that way too, right?
Yeah, because certain waxes like beeswax or paraffin wax, like they emit harmful chemicals. And then like even for beeswax, like I'm not vegan or anything, but I just can't. Beeswax, it just makes me sad. Yeah. So I definitely tried to find like, clean wicks, clean wax, like clean fragrance oils. So that's why like all of my sprays are body safe, because the fragrance oils are clean, and I only use 4 ingredients in the body sprays, and they're water based. So it's like, you can feel good about it. Like if you got kids, or, with my sister having my niece, like if she wants to spray or she wants to do a candle, I don't want my niece to be subjected to any harmful chemicals. Right. So, and I also have like sensitive skin. I have a sensitive nose, like all these things. So I don't want myself to be, so I want to treat people how I would want to be treated. Right. So yeah, no harmful anything.
I love it. That is awesome. So, fast forward a year, we are finally out of the woods. And you have been in full-time entrepreneurship for 6 months. What is it, 7 months? No, 8. Because it was November of 2020.
Let me think.
Yes.
Like September, October, no. I don't know. Sometime at the end of last year.
Okay, so
that's sad. I should know that.
Yeah, our liberation. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like our liberation anniversary, so we can celebrate that next year.
I guess because it wasn't like it was like a slow thing. It was like
it wasn't this big like.
Yeah,
leap.
It was like this. I'll stop working here and there. It was like until I just didn't go back. So. Yeah, it was like a slow thing.
I feel like the big leaps for you are emotional leaps, believing in yourself leaps, taking a chance on yourself leaps. I feel like those are the leaps. Whereas even though it is a transition in terms of a career and you are testing out these different skill sets and things like that, it sounds like a lot of your transition and your elevation is like internal.
Yeah.
So the dates they can be whatever they are because a lot of it are based on your moments. So back to like the question. So back to now, how does it feel balancing, your real estate business and PJL candles? Like, what's this balance in acting? What does this balance feel like?
Crazy. Literally crazy. Because with real estate, and especially with the way that this market is moving, I gotta be able to be on the go. You know what I mean? And I'm also still doing auditions. The difference is pretty much they're all like self-tape auditions. So I kind of like schedule them whenever, I can. So that helped a bit. But yeah, just like with real estate though, that's way more like, gotta get going. And it's more like, I can get a call at any time, like, Peggie, I need you to look this up for me. Peggie, I need you to do this. And so that's the one where my schedule gets a little more volatile. And then with candles, there's a lot of planning involved, right? I need to plan content. I need to plan shoots. I need to plan, I need to go meet people sometimes to do drop-offs for candles, or I need to plan pop-up shops, like things like that. I gotta make the candles, make the room sprays, take inventory, like all these different things or like organization, creating systems and processes and updating my website. So many things.
Yes, so many things.
So honestly, there's always something to do, and it always feels like there's not enough time to do it. But what I'm trying to do, I
had to stop you because I'm reading this book and it really unlocked me in terms of how we relate to time. We don't have we are time. We make time. So we make the time for what it is that we really, really, really want to do. It's never, we don't have time because time is not to be possessed. Time is not, we have time. We are time. Okay.
See, you know what? You are absolutely correct. Because I feel like my relationship with time, especially as of late, has just been so rocky. Because again, I always feel like I don't have time. It always feels like that. And even when I'm like if I take time to like hang with some friends or something like that, it's like I'm always thinking about like I need to hurry up and get back. There's so many things I need to do. There's always something to do. And so one thing I am working on is trying to find balance. Like I still want to be able to have a life. Like as I told you before, when I was in college, I was working. So I didn't really do anything. I didn't go out a whole lot. All this stuff. I was kind of to myself. And then I moved to Atlanta and I was in a relationship for most of the time. So like I was kind of still to myself in my little relationship and all that stuff. And now I'm a free bird. So I'm trying to find that balance. I don't want to continue doing the same thing of just like burying myself in work. Right. And because then how will I take advantage of those moments?
I was going to say play.
Yeah. How will I play? You got to play. So yes, honestly, and it's so funny. Like that's literally what I'm learning right now is the work and play dynamic.
I'm extremely passionate about helping corporate professionals transition into entrepreneurship. So I had to share the number one thing that helped me develop as an entrepreneur, and that's the morning meetup. I joined the morning meetup specifically for the structure because I'm leaving corporate America, so I'm used to those morning huddles. We got our sales, we know what our goals are, and we get our day started. So I was missing that for 2 years before I even found the morning meetup. Now, the second thing that I really, really benefited from was the revenue. Revenue generating activities was not necessarily a thing before 2021. Now, I had my LLC, I had my website, I had a few clients here and there, but the momentum really took off as soon as I got around like-minded individuals and people who really knew the struggles that I was already dealing with, that I could get over my fear of sales and communicating my value and putting myself out there on social media. The friends that I've developed, the mentors and the mentees that I've created relationships with, everything has really created this environment for us to thrive as entrepreneurs. So if you want to develop as an entrepreneur, you're leaving corporate America and you're trying to figure out how do I get my footing in entrepreneurship, then the morning meetup will definitely be a game changer for you. You can learn with us, you can grow with us. And I didn't even mention that we have a book club. Join us in the community. Let's get started today. You will not regret it.
I can't be all work. I can't because I'll burn myself out, and then there won't be a PJL candles or real estate. Like I won't be doing any of that stuff.
Yeah.
And so, and it also could have something to do with, you know, me getting burnt out on acting a couple years ago because it was all work. I wasn't finding time to enjoy like networking events or, you know, just hanging out and maybe with some of my acting friends and not even talk about acting.
Yeah.
It was always just like focus, tunnel vision.
Yes.
And so now I'm finding like, yes, Peggy, you can take time, hang out with your friends, go to brunch, go get a drink, or, you know, something like that. Take yourself out.
Yeah.
That's been also liberating. Like just taking myself out and enjoying my own company and treating myself to nice stuff. You know what I mean? So yes, finding the balance between work and play is so important. And that's what I'm finding right now.
Absolutely. So, well, before I have to ask you this before I ask you our ceremonial question, because when you think about really truly taking action and like infusing some play into your work, whether it be if you do go to a brunch, you go into a brunch with an entrepreneurial friend, or if you go acting, make sure you pop off some jokes while you're on set or something like that. When you think about like how you can infuse play, like today, or, you know, or this week, what is something that you can do today that can like really make a difference?
Yeah. So even just like, so like if I'm making like candles or something, that's something I can because I've done it so much. Like I can multitask. So like allowing myself to like maybe be on FaceTime with a friend. Normally, like if somebody calls me, I'm like, I'm working. I mean, obviously if it's not like a client, but if it's just like a friend, they don't want nothing. But like it's like me answering the phone or allowing myself to like, or if I'm about to do some work, maybe like, and I get a call or maybe someone wants to go hang out and it's not, the work isn't like pressing and I got to do it right now. Put it down. Go hang out. Be young. You know what I mean? And enjoy life. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like literally taking time to enjoy life. Like finding those little moments where, or even like when I go see a house with my client, like having fun with them. Like maybe taking some time to talk about something other than real estate. Like how's your day? How's your life? You're like catching up. I like to get to know my clients so I can, one, be better able to help them, but also like we can build rapport. Yeah. And I also like to joke. So like cracking jokes with them, you know, things like that. Yeah. So just finding those little moments where you can just have fun. Yes. Put your hair down. Don't always have to be so entrepreneur, you know? Right.
And I think that's our schema of what entrepreneurship looks like, but I think we can make it what we want. We can make time what we want, and we can make our work what we want. And the fact that you are in 3 different lanes that all give you some type of, they feed you. Acting feeds you, your candle business feeds you, and then your real estate business feeds you. Like this is a good place to be. Yeah. And then like once you start infusing a little bit of fun in there, you can literally have the balance that you want. Yes. That's exciting.
Got to infuse the fun. No, honestly, like I've really, really been working on that. And just like, I don't know, I guess like just saying yes. Yeah. More often. Yeah, just saying yes. I think that's
balance. Yeah, between yes and no.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Because sometimes I say yes too much.
Oh, yeah. I'm a no kind of person. I ain't gonna make it. Okay. I'm in the bed. I'm sleepy. I already wrapped my hair up for the day. You know,
I got you.
I'm definitely an introvert. So for me, saying yes is allowing myself like to not settle into being introvert so much, you know? So going to a movie. I went to a movie the other day. I don't even like going to movies, but I went because I'm like, let me get out the house. Let me just like chill for a second. Yeah. And I ended up enjoying myself, you know? Yeah. And then I went home and I did some work.
There you go. I love it. I have truly, really enjoyed you being on the couch today. Cause like, I just feel like this is, you know, this is like you, I think, and maybe it might be the candles. Cause like your story is really lit. Your experiences, and then you really like just trusting yourself to, even if you don't all the way believe in yourself logically, right? You still take action. Yeah. And that has never stopped you from doing what it is that you want to do. So you're here now, and this is a beautiful place to, now you're a newly solo entrepreneur. We're going to see what that looks like. We're going to follow you along your journey. And so this ceremonial question that I usually ask is just, as we think about our journey, we have our goals. Mm-hmm. Like you have the whole responsibility of your family, like to think about going forward. Mm-hmm. But there's somebody who's behind us, who's like looking at your story, like, how did she do that? Like, how do I believe in myself enough to just take action? And I think there's some wisdom I can take from your story for sure. But if you think about that girl who's either in your shoes or just was in your environment at that time, what would you say to her or him who, you know, is in that environment and just needs a little bit of wisdom to just take their next step?
Spend some time with yourself. And allow yourself to do something that makes you uncomfortable. Like, just do it. Just do it. Just do it. Just do it. What's the worst that can happen? You know what I mean? Like, because even if, so for example, if I started PJL and it failed, okay, honestly, okay, then I just keep doing other things. You know what I mean? Like, yes, it would hurt. I would be sad about it. But it's not the end of the world. Right. You know, like, I may have lost some money putting into it or pride or, you know, whatever. But that's it. You know what I mean? Like, it's really, like, what's the worst that can happen? And what's the likelihood that the worst is going to happen? Like, bet on yourself. And, like, know that you possess everything you need to be successful. You just have to tap into it. So that's why I say spend some time with yourself to learn yourself and to learn what you are capable of. And then if you are comfortable in a situation, just go and get out of it. Because if you don't, God gonna put you out of it. And it ain't gonna be, that's not gonna be comfortable.
It can be real bad.
That's not gonna be comfortable. It's gonna be a situation where you're like, it's gonna feel like the rug is like pulled up from up under you. And it's what you need, but it's like when you were able to do it on your own, you weren't doing it, and God was realizing she just ain't gonna do it. So let me just give her a little push. So honestly, for me, the biggest thing is just allow yourself to be uncomfortable, because there's no growth in comfort. There's no forward progression in comfort, because you just sitting there, you complacent, you're literally just gonna be like this. And at that point, you're existing and you're not living. Yeah. So choose to live. Honestly, just choose to live.
Choose to live. If you ain't said nothing else but a word, they are taking that one to the bank. Thank you so much for pushing through your story, because that is an example that we all need to just know that it is possible. Yeah. So if you have resonated with Peggie's story, then I just highly encourage you to keep up with this young lady. Keep up with her, connect with her. And if they would like to connect with you, if they connected with your story, how can they reach out to you?
Yeah. So you can follow me on Instagram. Personally, it's Peggie J, PEGGIE.J. And then PJL Candles is PJL Candles all together on Instagram and all of the other social media outlets. And then, of course, pjlcandles.com for all of my candles, my room sprays, any new releases. And then make sure you get on our email list so you can be first to know about anything that's new released, any new products. And then just let me know what you guys are looking for. Maybe we can add that to the list.
I love it. Well, there you have it, guys. You have a wonderful day. I hope you enjoy Miss Peggie's story, because I surely did. But until next time, peace out. Have a good one.
Bye.